Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely thrilled to have a true titan of industry with us today. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
I'm Sam Walton, though most folks just knew me as Sam. I spent my life trying to give folks a good deal and building a little company you might have heard of called Walmart.
A little company. That's a bit of an understatement, Sam. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I came into this world on March 29th, 1918, right in Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
And what was your given name at birth?
Just Samuel Moore Walton.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Not a flashy one, no. Moore was my mother's maiden name. We were simple, hard-working people, and I think they just wanted a solid name for their first son.
What was your hometown like growing up?
Well, we moved around a bit through Oklahoma and Missouri because it was the Great Depression. Life was rugged. People didn't have much, but they had grit. Growing up in the rural Midwest taught me the value of a dollar and the importance of community. You knew your neighbors, and you looked out for them.
What was your family life like?
My parents, Thomas and Nancy, were hard workers. My dad was a banker and a farm loan agent. He was a master negotiator. I think I got my love for a good bargain from him. We didn't have a lot of money, so we all had to pitch in. It was a busy, focused household.
What kind of kid were you?
I was busy. I was always doing something. I was an Eagle Scout. Actually, I was the youngest Eagle Scout in Missouri history at the time. I played football, basketball, and I was even student body president. I just loved being involved, and I'll admit, I liked to win.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
During the Depression, the fear of failing to provide was everywhere. I watched my dad work so hard just to keep things together. My biggest fear was probably being idle or not being able to contribute. I felt a real drive to make sure I was always moving forward.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I don't know if I had one specific job in mind, but I knew I wanted to be a businessman. I loved the hustle before they called it that. I wanted to build something that mattered to everyday people.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I love sports. Being the quarterback of the football team and playing basketball taught me about teamwork. I also loved the social side, getting to know everyone in school. I never met a stranger I didn't want to talk to.
What was your first job?
Oh, I had plenty. I delivered newspapers, sold magazine subscriptions, and even milked the family cows and sold the extra milk to neighbors. My first real corporate job, though, was as a management trainee at J.C. Penney in Des Moines. I started there 3 days after I graduated from college.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I wouldn't say I felt different, but I realized early on that I had more energy than most. I could work longer hours and talk to more people without getting tired. I had a curiosity that never quit. I wanted to know how everything worked.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Buying a simple Ben Franklin variety store in Newport, Arkansas. It was just a small franchise, but that's where I started experimenting with staying open later, keeping prices low, and buying in bulk. It was the laboratory for everything Walmart became.
What was your biggest break?
Meeting my wife, Helen. She was my rock and my partner. But business-wise, it was probably losing my first store lease in Newport. It felt like a disaster at the time, but it forced me to move to Bentonville and start over with my own name on the door.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Capital was always tight. In the early days, I was constantly borrowing money to open the next store. People thought I was crazy for putting large discount stores in tiny little towns. They said there weren't enough people to support them.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. It just wasn't in my nature. If something didn't work, I'd just look at why, learn the lesson, and try a different angle.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I was an early riser. I'd be at the office or in a store at the crack of dawn, and I carried a little yellow legal pad everywhere. Every time I saw a good idea in someone else's store or a customer mentioned something they liked, I'd scribble it down. I was a lifelong student of retail.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I probably would have stayed a small town merchant. I love the interaction at the counter. Or maybe a pilot. I love flying my own little plane to visit my stores.
What was your life like before fame?
It was very grounded. Even as we grew, we lived simply. We went to church, I hunted quail with my dogs, and we raised our kids to work hard. I never wanted the trappings of wealth to change who we were.
How did relationships change after success?
Most of my real friends stayed the same. But when you become, quote, the Sam Walton, some people start treated you differently. I hated that. I just wanted to be treated like the fellow who lived down the street.
Did fame bring happiness?
Happiness came from the work and the family. Fame was just a byproduct that I mostly tried to ignore. I never saw the point in being fancy.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The loss of privacy. Suddenly, people were interested in what kind of car I drove, which was just an old Ford pickup truck, and they'd follow me around. I preferred being the one doing the observing, not the one being observed.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People thought I was cheap because I drove an old truck and flew my own plane. I wasn't cheap, I just didn't like waste. Every dollar I saved was a dollar I could pass on to the customer.
What was your darkest moment?
Losing that first store in Newport was a real blow to my pride. I had built it into the most successful store in the region, and because I didn't have a renewal clause in my lease, the landlord took it for his son. It was a hard lesson in business law.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I sometimes regretted not spending more time at home when the kids were young. I was on the road constantly, looking at stores and competitors. I tried to make up for it later, but the retail business is a demanding mistress.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
Some folks thought I was trying to destroy small towns. In reality, I felt I was saving them by giving people a way to afford more for their families. I grew up in those towns. I loved them.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
Early on, I tried to open a second store, and it failed miserably because I didn't have the right manager. I realized then that I couldn't do it all myself. I had to learn to delegate and trust people. I handled it by closing the store, licking my wounds, and focusing on finding better partners.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It gave me the ability to do more for my community and my employees, whom I called associates. But personally, I still wore off-the-rack suits and ate at the local diner.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My wife Helen and my father-in-law, L.S. Robson. He was a very successful businessman who taught me a lot about the financial side of things.
What was life like in your final years?
I stayed active as long as I could. I was still visiting stores, talking to associates, and trying to improve the business right until the end. I was very honored to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1992. That was a highlight.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was focused on the culture of the company. I wanted to make sure that as Walmart became a global giant, it never lost that small store feel and the commitment to the associate.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on April 5, 1992, in Little Rock, Arkansas.
What happened?
I had been battling multiple myeloma, a type of bone cancer, for a few years. It finally got the best of me.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was once arrested in Brazil. I was down there scouting out a competitor's store, and I was crawling around on the floor measuring the distance between the aisles with a tape measure. The security thought I was a spy or a crazy person.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
That I lived in a secret underground bunker or had a fleet of gold-plated limousines. People just couldn't believe the richest man in America really drove a 1979 Ford F-150 with dog cages in the back.
What was your most unique habit?
The Walmart cheer. I'd go into a store and get all the associates to huddle up and chant, W-A-L-M-A-R-T. It was silly, but it built spirit. I'd do it anywhere.
What was your favorite food?
I was a simple man. Give me a good steak, some fried okra, and a slice of apple pie, and I was happy.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
There was a little place in Bentonville called Fred's Hickory Inn. Good food, good people.
What was your favorite book?
I read a lot of business biographies, but honestly, I spent more time reading trade magazines and Sunday circulars to see what the competition was doing.
Did you have any known rivalries?
I had a healthy respect for Harry Cunningham at Kmart. We were always trying to outdo each other, but it was professional. I learned a lot from him.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
People talk about the success, but they don't talk about how much I loved to fly. Sometimes I get lost in the clouds just enjoying the peace up there. It was the only time I wasn't thinking about price points or inventory.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
I once lost a bet to my David Glass, who was our COO. I bet him that we wouldn't reach a certain profit margin, and if we did, I'd do the hula on Wall Street. Well, we hit it, and there I was, in a grass skirt and a lei, dancing in front of the New York Stock Exchange. There are pictures of that I'll never live down.
Did you ever prank someone?
I like to surprise managers by showing up at their stores at 4 a.m. I'd be waiting at the door when they arrived. I don't know if they'd call it a prank, but I sure enjoyed the look on their faces.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I suppose it was my airplanes, but I justified those as business tools. I never bought a yacht or a mansion.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Commit to your business. Believe in it more than anybody else. If you love your work, you'll be out there every day trying to do it better. And pretty soon, everybody around will catch the fever from you. And always, always take care of your customers.
Sam, this has been an absolute honor. Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for letting an old shopkeeper tell his tales. I hope folks remember that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room to succeed. You just have to work the hardest and listen to the people around you. It's been a real treat, Calvin. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sam. That was truly inspiring. Today we took a deep dive into the life of a man who changed the way the world shops, starting with nothing but a legal pad and a lot of grit. We covered everything from the Walmart cheer to dancing the hula on Wall Street. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.